So this is the third video in the series of question paper 2021 discussion of GS paper 4 ethics. So I have taken another theoretical question. In the last video we had discussed a case study. In this video we will take a theory question. So the question goes like this: in case of crisis of conscience, does emotional intelligence help to overcome the same without compromising the ethical or moral stand that you are likely to follow? Critically examine, right? So if you read this question, you will upfront get to know that two concepts, basically the close correlation of the concept of emotional intelligence in resolving of the crisis of conscience is being tested, and we need to critically examine how far it is true or whether something else could be added to it. And definitely, like all other questions in ethics, examples would uh, give a vivid picture, so you should ideally write some innovative examples by your own. So let's take first in writing this question, let's take first this concept about what is crisis of conscience. So you do not specifically have to write or detail about the crisis of conscience, but for your understanding, I am here to make you understand in a very simple and short way what exactly is crisis of conscience. Basically, conscience is your inner voice. Whenever you do an act, make a choice, then in case of a conflict kind of a situation, in case of a dilemma kind of a situation, you probably might face your inner voice saying something else, and the outside situations or laws, rules, regulations would say something else, right? So crisis of conscience is a kind of a very tensed kind of a situation in which you are kind of struggling with yourself inside, whether I should do this or I should do that, right? So you can understand by the line or the definition given here. It's a very simple one. It's an extremely tense situation wherein a person is not able to decide, or he feels remorse for the acts already done due to the conflict between the voice of conscience and objective practical decision making. It is a situation wherein people will have to choose between their inner morals and their duty or responsibility. So some of the examples could be like, if you go to a shopkeeper to buy a pen, and supposedly you had to give maybe 25 rupees, and instead of a 20 rupees note you give a 10 rupees note, and the shopkeeper accepts it, then basically you are not punished actually for not giving the proper change, but somewhere or the other your inner voice is kind of pricking you that okay, that 10 rupees you had to give and you did not, right? So that's maybe a kind of guilt feeling you feel even years after, right, if you had committed such kind of very silly act. Similarly, a district magistrate, if he is, or he gets an order, or the municipal commissioner, to be putting it in a right manner, if he gets this order to evict a society, maybe slum area, then the court has given the eviction order. He needs to follow the law. However, the people there in that slum area, they are very poor and marginalized, and the children are very they don't have clothes on their body. They are hungry for days, and seeing the situation, the despicable situation of these people, you kind of have this feeling of empathy for them. And if at all you order the bulldozer to remove that slum, then it's kind of against your conscience. So again you are having this kind of a conflict. Similarly, the whistle blowing example, if the person like Edward Snowden, he had to be following law and actually be patriotic to his own country, but then he said while leaking the tapes that his own conscience, internal conscience towards the larger good for people and humanity and all of that, it actually made him do so. So he also went through a crisis of conscience while taking that decision. So this is in general, simply putting to you, this is a crisis of conscience kind of a situation. Emotional intelligence, we can understand from the term itself that it's an art of managing emotions very intelligently. All of us have emotions. Being human, we, I, me, you, and everyone else have emotions. So getting getting to know your emotions, getting to know others emotions, actually empowers you to manage your and others emotions intelligently, right? So the examples could be, maybe there is a deadline situation, you need to deliver the project right on time, but at the same time, one of your subordinates, he has some problem in his family, maybe his mother is ill or whatever, and he asks for leave, and you know that he's saying right, his mother is maybe suffering from the terminal illness. You cannot say no to him. So how can you, as in, you need to sanction his leave, you need to manage your project, and at the same time you need to manage yourself, right? Being calm and composed to deliver, right? So generally leaders face such kind of situation wherein they need to perform optically within resource pressure. So such kind of challenging situations requires you to deal with your and others emotions very intelligently. Similarly, your own anger, your own stress, how do you deal with that, right? How you deal with the boss who kind of pressurizes you to do something which you know that is wrong, right? So all of that, all of these kinds of situations would require emotional intelligence. Now, having said about crisis of conscience and emotional intelligence, now we come to the actual question, which is the correlation between the two. Remember, first of all, uh, to address this question, you need to touch touch a bit upon crisis of conscience and the emotional intelligence, so as to present that you know the stuff, and then you come to the correlation part, the body part of your answer. And in this you can understand that having understood these two concepts, you can maybe correlate them by saying that crisis of conscience is actually two kinds of situations: before the action and after the action. Before the action, you face the conflict whether I do this or that, and whether I should be governed by my inner morals or get governed by the external rules, or after having done that act, right? If at all your conscience is pricking you, right? If at all you didn't get governed by your own inner morals, then that kind of a situation would also comprise of crisis of conscience. And emotional intelligence, as we understood, is management of self and others. So having said this, we can say that if at all I know how to manage myself, if at all I'm aware of myself and others, if at all I have that social skills and empathy, if at all I have that awareness about myself, then basically whatever crisis of conscience is a situation wherein the conflict is largely inside, right? So until I know myself, I'll not be able to manage that crisis, manage that situation. So you can in a line put it like, by intelligently and objectively understanding and managing myself, others and situations, I can resolve the conflict going inside me. So here with this line you are kind of connecting this emotional intelligence with the crisis of conscience. You can maybe put in one of the examples I thought of was, superior is threatening you to not to disclose the fault in the design of the bridge, because the minister is coming tomorrow to inaugurate that bridge. So that's, in this particular situation you have a personal interest that, okay, if you don't abide by the diktat of your superior, you might face consequences, right? Similarly, you have a duty towards your superior and minister, and your laws, rules and code of conduct of your organization says to do so. However, your own inner conscience would kind of say that if at all you don't disclose, don't do the right thing, then it might lead to further grave consequences and people might get harmed in the long term, which again will be a blot on your organization, on you, on the society as well. Being a public servant, your most important duty is towards the people. So with that reasoning and all, you can kind of resolve this crisis of conscience. One of the steps in the resolving the crisis of conscience would definitely be emotional intelligence, wherein this emotional intelligence helps me to assess the situation objectively, not getting stressed with this situation or running away from my job, right? So I might, with my emotional intelligence, developing my emotional intelligence, I might uh, keep my calm, right? And then I put my point of view objectively and assertively before my superior, and show him the other side of the picture, that what consequences it could have. Maybe your minister gets impressed by you tomorrow while inauguration, but if at all the design has a serious flaw, then maybe sometime later you might lose the job, right? It may bring harm to the organization as well, and all of that. So creating a vested interest in him, right? So it may require you to think out of the box to actually tactfully deal with the situation, right? It may require a lot of moral courage and fortitude to put your point of view very assertively and objectively before your superior. So all of that would require emotional intelligence, definitely, as we can see. However, just the emotional intelligence don't help in the resolving all the crisis of conflicts kind of a situation. For example, I can give you an example of a marriage registrar who kind of faces this situation wherein a gay couple comes to him for registering the marriage, and he believes his morality is such that he is against gay marriages. However, his duty is to register. Being a marriage registrar, he has to register the marriage, right? So he faces a crisis of conscience kind of a situation. His law, his duty, responsibility says something else, his inner moral says something else. So what he'll do in such kind of a situation? So not just here, also emotional intelligence comes into picture, right? You need to understand your emotion, not get carried away, or not in fact, if you need to register, then you don't feel guilty or remorse after that. So you need to tactfully handle your emotions. However, you need to do something else as well. So in the critical examination part of it, you can say that yes, to an extent emotional intelligence helps to resolve the crisis of conscience, but you may require and you will require the intelligence quotient and the ethical competency. Basically all three combined gives you a holistic competence, and that kind of resolves the crisis of conscience situation. it also, in this particular example, it also would require an effort to make your false conscience to a true and certain conscience by gaining more knowledge, more awareness, talking to people, reading books. All of that would be required to know the human side of it, and know that gay marriages are not wrong after all, right? So for that you need to delve a bit deeper. You also might need to rationalize your own value system. You also might need to understand how your attitude toward these gay marriages has been built, the effective the ABC of attitude, effective behavioral and cognitive component of it, and how you might make an effort to change that attitude towards these kinds of situations. So in a sense, you can say that you need to work on your internal and external determinant of morality, to avoid the conflict of situations preemptively, right? So this could be a one line conclusion or so, right? So this was an idea to write on this particular questions. I hope it has given you a perspective, and if at all you like me to make a video on something else, some other question or some particular concepts, please do put it in comment, and please subscribe to this channel so that we are motivated enough to give you more good stuff. Thank you.